Correction is always distasteful to the truant child, said Traw. Consequences are never to be desired, although always inevitable, when we are the subjects of misdeeds. It is the ungrateful task of hygienists to point out to men and women what are those misdeeds. Herbert Shelton. Ungrateful task to tell people, to help people understand they're making mistakes. People don't want to be told to do something they don't want to do. They don't want to be told not to do something they want to do. So don't tell me I got to go to school. Don't tell me I can't go fishing. Don't tell me I got to eat a natural diet of fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. Don't tell me I can't eat an unnatural diet of everything else. The cooked food, the animal products, the other foods we're not biologically adapted to eat, the processed foods, the chemical foods. Ungrateful task to help people realize that they're making mistakes. Oh, but John, you're raining on their parade. But their parade is in hell. They don't know that. It's an ungrateful task to tell people their parade is in hell. It's not an easy sell, is it? Now, I find a lot of comfort in Herbert Shelton's quotes, and that's one of about a half a dozen or so that really helped me appreciate his experience, because he devoted his life to this message. For about 50 years, he was a leader of the natural hygiene movement that was not without its flaws. And I pointed out those flaws, I've corrected those flaws, and have made what I think natural hygiene a perfect science now. They were missing knowledge of how to adapt, which is why Herbert Shelton died when he was 90. He didn't understand knowledge of how to adapt. He understood that as a species, most of us are making two mistakes, but he didn't realize there was a third mistake. And to understand more about that, I'll put a link down below where I did a special video on explaining these three ways that we are using the wrong approach the wrong way, or not the wrong approach, but violating the law of cause and effect. Anyway, I liked Herbert Shelton for this reason. He was involved in it his whole life. He was the leader of the movement for, like I said, 50 years. He supervised over 50,000 water fasts. He saw the power of what would happen to people and how it would transform their lives just by taking a solid food vacation and then following that up with a species-specific diet. And because he was involved in it for so long, like I said, there are about a half a dozen quotes that I'll be sharing with you guys eventually. I've already included it in other comments that I've made before, to help you really appreciate what it's like to be on the hero's journey, to have everybody look at you as it's an ungrateful task. Remember, this is just like Plato's cave, a cave of ignorance. Everyone's inside the cave, tied up tightly with their backs up against the wall, focusing on the wall in front of them. There's a fire behind them, casting shadows on the bridge that's right above them, and there are things that are walking across on the bridge. There are people, there are animals, there are statues, and you hear the voices, you see the shadows. Life is an illusion. It's a cave of ignorance. We can't even see the person next to us. We're so bound tight, focused on that wall and the shadows. But when you find out what's going on, you look back and you see the fire and you go, oh my God, life is an illusion. You get out of the cave and you realize, my God, I got friends and family in the cave. And when you go back and you try to get them to turn around, look into the light, to become enlightened, it hurts their eyes. They scream at you, what's wrong with you? Why are you trying to hurt me? What is wrong with you? Ungrateful task. It is ungrateful for most people. But you don't let that deter you. For those who have a genuine love for his fellow man and woman, for those who know this is not some mere sentimental pseudo-religiosity we're talking about here, we know that men and women are slow to understand and still slower to act. But that doesn't slow us down any, because we realize this is the only cause we should pursue. It's the only thing that's going to change our species and bring it back to the golden age we once had. That's within our grasp. But it's difficult because people don't want to hear the truth. Again, people think you're raining on their parade. Most people just are not in a position to evaluate what they're doing and what they need to do because they don't know what they're missing. That's why we want to use the easiest approach we can with as many people as we can. That's where my solid food vacation comes into play. Now, we can help a lot of people by just saying, hey, let's take a look at those food choices and let's just add some more natural foods in. And you'll notice the difference it makes when you have a natural breakfast instead of an unnatural breakfast. And if you do a whole day where it's all natural, you'll see the difference. And that will work. And it can work. And if you can do it, great. But most of us struggle with this. It takes a long time to really see what we're missing. That's why I love the solid food vacation, because you see results so fast. You see results about 10 times faster when you take a solid food vacation and drink nothing but juices. It's even better than a water fast. It's not the same thing. It's a different level. In some cases, the water fast is superior and is what's needed to do for certain particular situations. But it doesn't address so many other situations now because we live in a sick world. Remember, the natural hygienists understood knowledge of how to live, but they didn't understand knowledge of how to adapt. The water fast has to be modified. Even a raw food diet has to be modified because things have changed. We don't live in an ideal world anymore. And that's why it's a little complicated for so many of us, because we look for excuses to bail out. Oh, well, this can't be our ideal diet because we have to supplement. It's only an ideal diet in an ideal world. We don't live there anymore. But we still cannot negate the fact that we have anatomical limitations that we're given at birth that tells us what kind of food we eat. But now we also have anatomical limitations because we damaged ourselves. And now we got another group of needs. And some people say, well, John, what about all these testimonies of people that heal eating raw animal products? Well, we can become dependent upon our mistakes. That's the problem with making mistakes. This is where the damage comes into play. When we provide our body with something that has a level 2 nutrient in it that we're supposed to get if we eat natural foods, our body will atrophy. So when you eat unnatural foods, foods we're not biologically adapted to eat, and you don't eat your natural foods, your body can be damaged. And one of the main ways it's damaged is it atrophies and can no longer make some of those level 2 nutrients that are only in animal products. So you have to keep that in mind when it comes to being the best that you can be. Even when you take a solid food vacation, you have to understand, how do we support our body if it's damaged? If our body's unable to make DHA, if it's unable to make cholesterol, if it's unable to make B12, if it's unable to make a wide variety of level 2 nutrients that we're supposed to make if we're healthy, then we have to be aware of that fact, and then we have to figure out the best approach on how to satisfy that additional temporary need that we have. Now I realize a lot of us don't have access to health food stores all around the world. What do the people do out in the middle of nowhere? Well, there are other options. We can stick with something like eggs, and I know a lot of people go, "Oh my God, he's advocating eggs." Well, if you don't have a Whole Foods around the corner, if you're only making $1 a day, how do you satisfy that need? Well, we have to be practical and realistic, and there are some nutrients in that egg yolk, not the egg white, which everyone thinks is so good, the protein. The egg yolk has a lot of level 2 nutrients. It has DHA, it has B12, it has cholesterol. So I prefer to go a supplement route myself personally, but I know a lot of people around the world don't have that as a luxury. And if so, I know there are ethical ways to consume eggs. It's something I don't get into. I don't do myself personally, but I have had some of my students try that to see if it was the solution that was causing their problems. And it was a very inexpensive way, very quickly, to find out whether or not you are having a deficiency in those problems, because you'll see results really quickly. Within a week or so, you can tell if you have simple deficiency issues. So instead of going out and buying a couple $100 worth of supplements to figure that out, a little carton of eggs can do the trick for you. But anyway, the main thing we have to realize is that we're going to be challenged on the hero's journey. Going back to the whole premise of what this video is about. I digress easily, don't I? Quite often also. But it's not a difficult thing to get the people we love the most to understand that they're making mistakes. It's again, it's an ungrateful task. Correction is not easy. Correction is always distasteful to the truant child. I'm being distracted by a dang lawnmower, and I'm going to go ahead and finish this up here real quick because that guy's going to be making a bunch of noise. Anyway, oh, he's dying! Yay! Nope. Anyway, so how do we deal with this? What's the best thing to do when we have loved ones that don't understand this? Well, you got to figure out some way to help them see the light that they're making a mistake. The best thing to do is, of course, you be the example. You shine and glow and do the things that you can only do for yourself, and hopefully that will get their attention. And if they're not ready, they're not ready. And hopefully you can move on and keep on the hero's journey and realize that when you go out and talk to strangers, same thing is going to happen occasionally. Sometimes there are going to be some people who are ungrateful. But when you can find someone who is grateful for you coming along and saving their life, you'll both be in for a treat.